So yesterday I finally made something that I have been wanting to make for a long time, and that is a music-driven animation in Blender. And man, it was so fun, and it's actually very easy. Now I've watched a whole bunch of videos on how to do this because I learned it yesterday, and I'm going to show you some tips in this video that I didn't see anywhere else. So prepare to have your mind blown, especially if you like music, because this is going to be awesome. So first we're going to start by modeling a triangular tonal piece. Then we're going to use the array modifier to make it really long. And then we're going to use another array to make a bunch of them. And eventually, if we get this elaborate in this tutorial, we'll make a triangle of triangles, which makes for a really great scene. Now, the cool thing about this project is that it is all in Blender Eevee right here, which means it can run very quickly, real-time rendering they call it, although it's not completely real time, but it's almost real time. And in fact, I was able to render about 2 frames per second last night. And the whole animation that I did was like 6,000 frames. That's the longest animation I've ever rendered in my life. And it was just going through frame by frame. It was really cool. So I love Eevee for stylized stuff like this, because if you're not going for photorealism, but you're going for, techno art or concept art, something, stylized and interesting like this, then it's great. So let's get started on the modeling. Let's make a new Blender file. Don't save changes. All right, with my default cube already deleted because I'm just that ahead of it. That's saved into my startup file, by the way. So we're going to start with our first shape, which is the triangle hallway. So Shift A, Mesh, and choose Cylinder. Now down here in your little options window, type in 3 vertices. Voila, we've got a triangle. So let's size this up and flip it on its side. So S10, enter. Now it's big. Let's flip it on its side. So if we look up here in this top little gyro compass, we see that our red line is the x-axis. So if we do RX90 and enter, voila, we have it on the right direction. Now for some reason, I want it to face along the x-axis because that's what I did originally, I think. So RZ90. There we go. And if we press the number 1, or actually number 3, we get a straight on view. This is an equilateral triangle, so all 3 sides are the same length, which is what we want. Let's start shaping it so we can add some textures and bring it to life with a music file. And I'll show you where to get it for free. All the textures we'll be making in this project, by the way, will be procedural, so no image textures needed. So tab into edit mode, go into face select, grab this first face, then I'm going to alt click and move over here. Hold shift and select this other face, so that's a multi-selected. Delete and delete face. Now we've got an open tunnel. Great. Let's go to edge mode. Select this edge, that edge, and this edge. By the way, holding shift again to select all 3. Control B to give it some bevel. Hit OK right there. Hold Alt and select this side, and then Alt Shift select this side. When you hold Alt and select one edge, it grabs a whole edge loop, I guess. I'm going to press E, enter. Let me resize my window here to give it some more room. So select the individual origins right here and press S. And you can scale this down to make kind of a closing piece on the end. So there we go. I'm good with that. Now let's press E, enter. Now we have an extruded edge here that we haven't moved yet. It's just sitting there. We're going to select median and scale along the X to give it a little outshoot piece right there, because that's going to connect to the other tunnel pieces that are all tiled almost infinitely into the horizon using the array modifier. Now, go back to edge select and let's grab these edges that we created with the bevel. There we go, 6 edges. Let's bevel those, so Control B, and there. Now let's grab our face select mode and grab these new faces we made, and these are going to be where some of our lights are going to be placed. They're actually not lights, they're emission materials. So with these 6 new faces selected, press I, and we get a small inset face. So I want it to be pretty skinny. That's going to be the yellow lines that I had in my original. And that's good. Now, before we deselect them, let's save ourselves some time. Let's start adding our materials. So make a new material in the materials tab and name it base. It's going to be the basic, starting texture for the actual larger parts of this tunnel. Make a new material. Name it yellow. Wow, I misspelled. I've never misspelled yellow before in my life. Yellow. And then here, with these faces selected, click Assign. That way, this yellow material, which is not yellow yet, is stuck onto only those faces, whereas the base material is on everything else before that. Okay, so we can deselect these by pressing Alt-A or Option-A on a Mac. Let's make some more light pieces. Grab these kind of connecting faces right here, 4, 5, and 6. There we go. So those faces and those faces. And let's do another inset. So I make it, maybe a little bit thicker. There we go. With these faces still selected, make a new material, name it blue, and click Assign. All right, so that's pretty much all there is to it right now. We can add more materials if you want to add more lights, but you don't want it to be too busy. Sometimes simplicity is the best solution for complexity. So it's going to look complex when we start using the array modifiers and all that other stuff. So let's start making the basic materials. So let's expand this to get our shader window up here. All right. Now, as I say in every video, we don't see the nodes for some reason, so press the period key and voila, it centers them for you. All right, so for the base, we're going to use the brick texture. So Shift A, search, brick, right there. Move our BSDF out of the way. Shift A, mix shader, right there. Shift A, search, transparent, not translucent, transparent. And we're actually going to plug this into the top slot, slot number 1, whereas the BSDF is on slot number 2. And we're going to use the brick as a mask, basically, to make transparent squares. So grab the color from your brick output and put it in your factor input. Let me zoom in here. It's not confusing. There we go. See that? All right. Now we need to give this thing some coordinates because it's kind of weird and stretchy. So with the brick thing selected, Control T will give you automatically a texture coordinates with a mapping. And this only works if you have the Node Wrangler add-on enabled, which is awesome. Very helpful little add-on. Let's use UV. There we go. Now by default, these faces all have, they're already UV unwrapped, but they need some help because we've been modifying them since they were created. So tab into edit mode, A to select all, U for unwrap, and smart UV projection. Okay. That did an okay job, except for these weird pieces right here. So let me go to our UV editor and see how this is looking. Yeah, the triangles got some funny angles naturally. So I'm just going to grab these faces individually and see if I can kind of resolve that real quick. I want them to be, on top of each other facing the right way. So let's see if I do U, smart UV project for that. Oh yeah, there we go. That's pretty sweet. Now there's these weird corners. Let's see if it'll unwrap these together. Smart UV. Ah, nice. 90 degrees. Now they're a little bit big. Oh, I forgot this one up here. UV smart. There's 6 of them. Press A up in here to select them all. And if you scale them down, the bricks get bigger. Kind of strange, but that's just how UV unwrap. There we go. So they're all the same. There's no weird angles. I am very happy with that. Cool. Let's go back to our shader editor. I actually want the bricks to go like long ways, so we can just rotate it by doing this. No, not that one. No, that one. Z, type in 90 and enter. Sweet, look at that. We just rotated the whole thing. And I'm going to leave the scaling how it is. That's a pretty good like size for the scale. And again, this black and white data is coming from the brick, becoming a mixed shader mask, and it's making part of it transparent, part of it not transparent. To do that, let's go to our materials tab of this mesh, by the way. Select it. Scroll down. Oh, we need to be in Eevee. There we go. Materials tab, blend mode. The most annoying part right now about Blender is that in fact you have to do this every time. And even in cycles, which it's not visible, you have to go to Eevee, change this, and go back to cycles. I don't get that. And on my Planet tutorial and other ones that I use transparency, that's always a problem that people run into. So I'm trying to do a better job of explaining it. So now we have actual transparency and it looks all right. Let's try some other modes. Blend hashed, kind of noisy. Clip is a little rough. Oh, we've got change our color to pure white. There we go. Because this has like a duotone brick. We don't want that. We want colors 1 and 2 to be white, and then the mortar, which is in between, to be black. So let's try blend. I'll do a clip because they're not really doing anything partially transparent. It's all yes or no, on or off. So cool. Now let's set our camera in the right place. So press the number 3 for a straight side view, and then press Control-Alt-0 if you already have a camera in your scene. And voila, the camera is slapped into that view. Let's make sure it's right in the middle, which it's not. So Alt, with the camera selected, press Alt-G to reset the location right there. Now I feel like this triangle needs to go a little lower to be truly centered. So I'm going to move the camera up. So GZ, maybe right about there. Let's see. When you press 0, it goes into your camera view. 0 goes back out. So press 0 to go in your camera view. GZ, and then Z again to move out. There we go. So I want this to be like totally symmetrical, which it's not. So GZ, GZZ. There we go. It's pretty much symmetrical right there. Okay, that's good enough. So let's get it inside the triangle. So G, Z, Z. All right, and also let's make our camera a wider angle camera. So go to your camera tab, change your focal length to anything between like 10 and 30. I'll do 15. GZZ. Yeah, real dramatic. For these VJ loop type videos, wide angles are fun because you just get more perspective. You can see more in your scene, and you get this really dramatic, flyby action where it's just like zooming through stuff. Cool. Now let's add some duplicates of this by using the array. So we can see our little tiny camera right here. I'm going to scale this up so it's easier to see. Scaling your camera doesn't affect your view, by the way. Cool. Select the mesh, go to modifiers tab, go to array. We don't want to go to that direction. Well, we don't want to go that direction or that direction. So -1 on the Z. That's because we have this thing rotated. Remember, we rotated it twice. Cool. Let's add maybe like 10 of these. There we go. All right, now let's make some lights inside this bad boy. So I'm going to move my viewport camera in here, and I don't need a grid. So I'm going to click on this overlay dropdown and turn off grid. There we go. I don't mind the X and Y thing, but I don't care about the grid on the floor. There's no need for a floor grid right now. Also, we can make our viewport a little bit wider by going into their in menu, view, and make this maybe like 35, maybe 30. There you go. Alrighty, so let's go to our materials tab, click on yellow, period up in the node editor to find our nodes. There they are. Delete this guy, Shift A, search emission. Plug it on in there. Super simple. Make the color, you guessed it, yellow. Turn the brightness up to about 5, although it doesn't really matter because music is going to be animating. Let me zoom in, this is super tiny. A music file we will get in a minute will be animating the strength parameter up and down to the beat of the music. Next, go to our blue, delete the BSDF, Shift A, emission. Now, some of you more experienced users are saying the BSDF shader already has an emission. You're totally right, and I'm just stuck in my old ways, so sorry. Okay, I like it simple. Sweet. That looks good to me. Something you can do to add a little bit extra depth to your scene is go to these large faces on the outside, Shift D, duplicate them, and then use the median point to scale them out from the middle point, right? Median is the middle. So Blender's saying, oh, the point right in the middle is literally like in the middle of this triangle. We're scaling them all out like that. But be careful because look, it will actually extend your array, mess with your array. So once you have them stretched out and large, scale them back down individually. So their individual origins, scale it down. And they could be smaller than the ones that they came from. Cool. Now let's play with the UV scaling of this. UV editor. These 3 rectangles right here are the rectangles I have selected. 1, 2, 3. So press A up here and then scale these, down. Yeah, let's scale them down to make the bricks larger. The cool thing about using your UV is because we can control basically the scale of this brick on every single face individually. So this face, it's that large, but this face is smaller. So the bricks are actually larger. That just gives us some more variety. When our camera is zooming through here, we're going to see bricks on the outside that are at a different placement, and it'll look really cool. All right. Now we're going to add an HDR for the sake of reflections. So Shift A, search ENV, environmental texture, open, find, I prefer a Milky Way or a space 360 panorama because it just looks the coolest. In case you can't see the reflection during the final render, we don't want to see like buildings and city streets or anything. We want it to be space. So that looks good. Now this is going to show up in the reflection, but I don't want it to be visible in the final render. So a cool trick to only let the HDR be visible in reflections, but not in the final render is this. Shift A, search, type in light path here. Shift A, mix RGB, put that here, and color 2 to be black. So here it is. Is camera ray? Yes or no? Plug it into mix. So this means that the camera is only going to see this black color right here, whereas the renders and the reflections are all going to see this image right here. Very nice trick, and I like that a lot. Cycles has a checkbox. You can turn it off in the render, but you don't have that in Eevee right now, so we got to do this little trick. So let's do a render and see what this looks like. F12. Pretty sweet. Wow. I'm impressed. And yeah, I can't see the galaxy behind there, but I can see that there is something going on inside here. There's some nice reflections going on. That looks cool. Let's go back and fix a few things. I have a light in here. You can just delete that light because we're not using any light objects in this render. Kind of like with my last video with the dreamscape with the cubes. There's no lights involved, and that's kind of cool. So let's make this these bricks more metallic. So go to materials, select your base texture, go back to object. Go down. Here's the BSDF. So again, transparent is for the mortar, right? The gaps in between the bricks. Whereas the actual bricks are this guy. And we can color them if we want, like that. Looks pretty cool actually. Red, it's nice. Kind of scary. Orangey red. But let's make them shiny metallic. So turn up metallic, turn up specular, turn down your roughness. Maybe not all the way, because it gets a little crazy. Do some blur. Let's render that. Ooh, cool. So play with the amount of roughness. If you have roughness up high, it's not going to be as shiny. So find a good medium point that you like. Oh man, that looks sweet. So that's at dot. Let's do dot 3. That looks nice. Got a nice metal blur to it. All right, now you can use procedural textures and lines like I did in my final project to offset this reflection to give it some more variety. I'm not going to spend time on that in this video because it just takes too much time. So let's get rid of this side in panel by pressing letter N. Oh, before we do the animation, I actually need to show you where I got the music from. So there are tons of copyright-free music on YouTube. Did you know that? Well, now you do. You know how to find it? Use the search feature. Wow. Type in copyright free and then whatever you want. Guitar music, piano, synthwave, a personal favorite of mine, especially for this kind of video. Synthwave is really nice. Now we're looking for an individual song. These are all mixes, which do list the names of the authors in the song. So if you find a song you like in a mix, look up that specific song, make sure it's still copyright free, and you can use any number of shady websites to download the YouTube as an MP3. To do that, again, use your search feature. Type in YouTube to MP3. And there's a bunch of websites that do it. It just gives you a download right there, and you can download the MP3 file. The song that I used is called Cruising the Night Sky by Techno Axe. And this is his official YouTube channel. It does still say that it is royalty free, so I've got a total clear conscience. And guess what? Posting this on Facebook or YouTube, no problems at all, because there's no copyright, so you won't get taken down. So once you download your MP3, here's where the cool stuff happens that I've never heard anyone talk about ever before, and you're going to love me for this trick, especially if you like music and mixing and things like that. You can separate your MP3 song into separate channels. Did you know that? Yes, using machine learning. The website that I used to deconstruct my audio file was this one. So it's melody.ml. Click on Upload MP3, select your original song, and it's going to upload, and then the AI software on the server, I assume, is going to be deconstructing it into these different channels. It gives you a vocal channel, drums, bass, and like an other one. Oh, here it is. Yeah, vocals, drums, instruments, and other. Now it's processing it. If you put in your email, it'll email it to you, or you can click download right here once it's available. If you want to use more mainstream music, which you won't really be able to post, publicly, say on Facebook or YouTube, you may be able to find some actual original stems of professionally made songs. Just type in your favorite name song or maybe an artist name, and then type free stems or stem download. And I don't know, you may find like some kind of contest or website, or someone through various means has managed to find the original tracks from the studio, and you can use those in this type of video as well. So here it is, it's done. So click download. And inside of that zip file will be the 4 different audio files here. And they're labeled bass, drums, other, and vocals. So if we listen to them real quick, here's the drums track. Cool. You can tell there's no synthesizer, there's no melody, nothing. Let's try the other track. Cool, got some synthesizer here. Some rhythmic stuff. How about the vocals channel? There's no vocals in this song. So you got this synthesizer sound as vocals. And the bass, there's nothing much in the bass channel. And let's animate this dang thing, all right? We need 3 windows open to do that. We need the graph editor to actually do the animation part, which don't worry, it's all automated. And then we also need to view the shader editor. So let's do another split up here, right there, right there. Make this top one the shader editor. so we can see the actual material and create the keyframe. Okay, so here's how the magic happens. I'm going to do this in a step-by-step process, and this is a basic step you're going to repeat over and over, but you need to do it very carefully or it will mess up and you'll be very confused. So step number 1, select your shader that you want to animate the strength parameter. Number 2, go to frame number 1 right here. Step number 3, right click on your strength and add insert keyframe. There it is. Now you need to actually select that keyframe. By default, sometimes keyframes are not selected, but you have to actually select it or find it. Now it's selected. And here is the meat of this video. Go to Key, Bake Sound to F Curves. Now you got to find your sound. I'm going to do drums. And over here on the right, you do have some settings from lowest frequency to highest frequency. So if you want to just get the bass, maybe do like 0 to 200 or 300. And then, other sounds are above 200, 300 hertz and up. So I'm just going to try to get the kick, which is the bass drums. So 0 hertz up to 300. You can leave these things how they are and click Bake Sound to F Curves. It's going to think for a second, and there we go. Look at this. Here's the bass drum. If we play this file right now, there's no sound. So let's add the sound file, and then we'll come back to adding the other keyframes for the other parts. So change one of these to the video sequencer. Go to frame number 1 right there. Oh, you can use your arrow keys, by the way. There we go. Frame number 1. Add sound. And then we're going to add the original track, not the separated tracks, but the original right here with everything added. So add sound strip, and there we go. Now we can press play. Now look at this. These guys are actually offset because it looks like I wasn't on frame 1 when I added this. So let me redo this. Even I make mistakes. Go to Key, Bake Sound to F Curves, Drums, Enter. There we go. Now it's where it needs to be. So press play. Ooh. Oh yeah. Sweet. If you find that these values are not jumping up high enough, you can enhance them by going to the modifiers. I press the letter N, by the way, to get this guy. Go to modifiers. Remember, you have to have this keyframe selected and add the envelope. Click add point, and now you can drag up the maximum to enhance the maximum and drop down the minimum to below 0 or, right at 0. That's up to you. So this can really help you tweak what the song is giving you and give you a stronger signal for these emissions. See how it's brighter now? Watch this. Bring it down. It's weaker. Yeah, so I like to go up to around 10. That's a nice brightness. Yeah, it's stronger. Cool. Now let's do the blue one, okay? So click on our blue material. We need to get back to our shader editor here. We don't need this sequencer anymore. There it is. Click on the node. Go to frame number 1 because that's where everything's going to start. Number 1, right click on the strength parameter or whatever parameter you want to animate, press insert keyframe. Now with this keyframe selected, you have to select it, go to Key, Bake Sound to F Curves, and let's do drums again, but let's change the settings. Let's make it from like 500 up to 10,000. That's everything up above that range. There we go. Maybe it's the hi-hats or the snare. I don't know. Maybe this isn't working how I think it should work. Honestly, Blender really needs to step up their settings for audio. I think there's a lot more that could be done with this feature right here that really is not that complicated. And of course, I say that because I'm not a programmer, so forgive me if you are. Yeah, it looks about the same waveform. So this frequency cutoff doesn't really do a whole lot, in my opinion. Maybe it cleaned it up a little bit, actually. Press play and see what it does. Yeah, the blue one is a lot cleaner. It's just up and down, whereas the yellow one kind of flickers. Click on the yellow keyframe. It's right here. It's kind of got some noise, maybe because of those low frequencies. I don't know. So that's interesting. Like I said earlier, if you're able to download actual individual tracks from a real professionally produced song, you'll get a lot more variety in the sounds. They will be like actually truly separated instead of just frequency separation, which, as you can see, doesn't really work here. If you make your own tracks, just export every track as an individual audio file. The hat as one audio file, the snare, the bass, the synth, all that stuff, and you'll have a lot to play with to make a very dynamic and interesting animated scene. Let's add one more layer of colored lights to add some more interest to the scene. Node editor up here, click on the base material. Let's get rid of the graph editor for now. We don't need that. And we're going to add another emissions layer to this guy. Actually, let's just use this. So Shift A, search. Let's do a Voronoi, and let's plug in distance into emissions here, and then we're going to animate this emission strength. So let's go. Let's add another. Let's add another node, which is the color ramp. Shift A, search. Type in ramp. This will allow us to have a lot more control over the values that are coming out of it. Just do this for now. So now we got some polka dots. Don't really care for that personally. Let's try Chebyshev. Oh yeah, this is a great one for techno lines. Awesome. So one cool thing is we can animate the emission strength by the song, right? Jumping up and down. But we can also animate the 4D W parameter. I don't know why it's W. So instead of a number, type in hashtag frame times .01. Let's try a .01. Look at that. As the frames move, this thing is animating. And I'm going to turn on this volume for you guys just for this recording. For one, I just put it at .75. Hopefully that'll be fine. Now let's animate it to the actual song. So we click on the strength parameter. We're going to right click and do insert keyframe. Now let's get back our graph editor. There it is. Make sure that we actually have the keyframe we just made selected, which we need to find it. This is in the base material. So base, all your base are belong to us. There's the keyframe. Now I think I need to move it back to 1 so that the music will start on 1. So it's at frame 169. So watch this. With this keyframe selected, I'm going to press G, X, -169, enter. And it put it back to 0. So G, X, 1. Let's zoom in and make sure it's on frame 1. So we want everything to be on time. Frame 1. There it is. Awesome. All right, now we can add the music. So key, bake sound F curves, and let's select a different layer. Let's do bass. Okay, and there's this weird choppy sound wave here, which is kind of like a staccato. Ba-da-da, ba-da-da. And let's make it stronger. So press letter N, modifiers, add the envelope, add a point, and then increase the maximum, which is this right number, bring down the left number. It's going to bounce up and down all over the place. Make it pretty intense. Cool. Remember, when you go below 0 for an emission shader, it's just black. So unless you want lots of black to give more space in between the blinks, then keep it above 0, or you can let it go down below, so there'll be more downtime with that bright emission shader. So let's press play. Oh, it's awesome. It's flickering, it's stuttering, it's moving with the music. Let's move it down even more. Yeah, I feel like that is really more pronounced. Let's go to this inside tunnel view, see what this looks like. Oh, beautiful. And every reiteration of this new Voronoi pattern is totally random. It'll never repeat. And I love that. Yay for procedural textures. All right, so I think I'm pretty happy with this. Let's move on with this project. Hope you're having fun so far. And I think this one shouldn't fry your computer as much as my last one did. So sorry about that. All right, so let's press number 3 to get a flat side view or back view, whatever. And we're going to make some copies of this, and then we're going to flip them upside down. All right, now we're going to make a whole bunch of triangles to fill in those empty gaps in between these squares. See, there's you can see the gray. So we're going to fill that in. So press number 3, add another array modifier here, and this is the correct direction. So let's do, 6 of these. And then let's Alt-D this to make a cloned or a linked copy. So Alt-D, enter. And then R180. And let's just kind of eyeball it. Place this right there. And then let's turn this copy down one. Oops, wrong direction. We're going to make a triangle of triangles, right? There. Alt-D again, R180, enter. Put this right here. Turn the array down. Alt-D, enter, R180, enter. Places right, and you can do any kind of pattern you want. There's no rule for what I'm doing right now. It's just kind of creative license and a little bit of OCD. When you have enough of these, you can do some really cool camera flying motions like I did in my original that zoomed through all the triangles. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to get a camera view on one screen, which will be the top one, 0. And now with the camera selected, watch this. Whoa, it can go in between them. It can go through the walls. And actually, I'm not even inside the triangle yet. There you go. Now, 3. Down here, I'm controlling the camera with my G key. See, it gets this really cool in between. You get some really great kind of negative space shots. And then you get a lot of wall and, that perspective effect. And as the camera is moving, it's going to be flying through this. So there's 2 ways you can do that to make your camera move with very little effort. First, you can animate your camera and have it slowly, moving through the tunnels. You can use that with keyframes, or you can use my hashtag frame trick. I know it's not really a hashtag. I know I don't know what it is. It's a driver or something. Or you can animate the actual shapes here and have them fly around the camera. That's actually what I did in my original. So to do that, you just select one of the tunnels, go to your properties, and we need to move, which parameter is it? No. Is it Z? No. Is it X? Yes, it's X. So click on the X, number sign, frame times 1. I don't know how fast this is going to move. That's kind of fast. Let's do dot 5. And you just need to copy this to all of your shapes, okay? So let me go to object mode so it's a little easier to see. This guy, paste. Oops, I got to do a number sign. Interesting. It doesn't copy the number sign. So number sign, paste, frame times dot 5. This one, paste. And you can see they're jumping ahead. That's because this is reading the frame number, which is 138, multiplying it by 0.5 and giving that as the X coordinate. And I love this trick so much. And animating stuff. I have animated, you can use this on rotation, on node parameters, anything really. But just remember, it's going to continue to increase until, forever. So look, my triangles are moving, but my camera is not. It's right there. See my camera? Now, once you run out, your animation's over. So you either need to rotate your camera around. Now, once you run out of triangle, it's over. But you can rotate your camera around like this. Whoa. And then have your camera move around and go back, catch up to it. You can do camera cuts and have it jump back inside the triangle. There's a lot of different things you can do to, get rid of that problem. All right, I'm going to try something that I didn't do in my original, and I'm going to add some actual displacement modifier and animate that so there's actual movement inside this tunnel. So I'm going to hide these, going to solo this mesh right here by pressing the / edit mode. Okay, so I'm going to select these outer floating faces, and I'm going to press I for inset. We're just going to make a kind of square in the middle of them. That's not messing with the UVs, so that's good. And with these faces still selected, go to a little triangle thing here, go to vertex group, make a new one, and click assign. Now, a vertex group is just kind of like an easy way to reselect faces. You can use vertex groups in all kinds of different ways. We're going to use them in a displacement modifier, and we're going to animate that modifier. So let's get out of edit mode with tab, go to your wrench, add modifier, add a displace modifier. That looks terrible. In your vertex group, select group. Ooh, cool. Okay, now what if we do negative? Oh, that looks nice. Look at that. It's all uniform. And we're going to have these kind of jumping in and out. Hopefully it won't look too erratic and crazy to the music. So we need to animate the strength parameter here. So put it at 0. Let's get back into our animating mode. So we need graph editor open. Go over to frame 1. Use your arrow keys to get to individual frames. I've got my graph editor open on the top. With my mesh selected, I'm going to go to my displace modifier, and you can click this little keyframe button right here, animate property, which is it's the same as right-clicking and doing insert keyframe. Now over here we've got cylinder, action, and then strength for the displace modifier. Cool. Now we need to make sure and select that keyframe. Go to key, bake sound, and let's do the vocal track. And let's see how this looks. If it's too noisy, I may do some frequency cutting Yeah, it's a little wobbly. Let's try it again without changing the frame I'm on. I'm still on frame 1. Let's do the same thing again. Select it, and let's bring this up to 500. See how this looks. Oh, there's nothing on this channel till later in the song. So there it is. And it's jumping up to only about not even 0.5. So that's not enough. I'm going to add the envelope again, add a point, and I'm going to drop my maximum. Let's see, I need to make this inverted. So there we go. So maximum is a negative number and minimum is, where it needs to be. So let's see, I need to figure out where is 0. Oh, 0's up here. Okay, so 0 is there. It's going to drop down to a lot. I need to play with these little minimum maximums to get them just right. Cool, so it's jumping down to 1. So let's see when it's really pulsing around what it's going to look like. I'm going to go into normal view. I'm going to actually attach my camera to the mesh so that it won't move around. So let's rotate it back. I'm going to, with the camera selected, select my mesh, Control P for parent, do that second option. There we go. So now, no matter where this thing moves, the camera will stay with it. Let's jump ahead to where the new instrument comes in. Oh, it's because my end point is not high enough. That's probably the problem. Let's go up to 3000. Jump over here where they're all going. Look at that. You can see it jumping out. Oh, that looks so cool. Very cool. I like that a lot. I have only so far really animated emission strengths. I haven't really done any motion to the sound. You can of course do all kinds of stuff: scale, rotate, position. There's just really the limit is your imagination and how much you want to play with Blender. There's just so many possibilities. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I blew your mind like I promised earlier, and I would love to see what you guys make with this. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel, like the video, comment, let me know what you learned. If there's anything I didn't explain very well, then let me know and I'll do my best to clear that up. But thanks so much for watching and have a great week.